Ooh,
Nicole, what is this? Quarter round. Have you used your new quarter rounds yet?
Dick has.
Hey, Robin.
It's like that old Beach Boys song. I quarter round. Quarter round town.
Round, round, quarter round. Oh, nice, Paul. I like it.
That was nice. That was nice.
Okay. Enough of this jocularity. Okay. Happy New Year, everybody.
Happy New Year.
If I didn't catch you at the auspicious beginnings class, it was because there were 50 yogis and I just couldn't track everybody there. So thanks for coming. It was auspicious. All right, so take your seat. Conspicuously auspicious. Sitting relaxed at ease, but with the spine loosely straight. Limbs relaxed. Letting the rootedness of the seat provide the base from which the spine, the trunk of the tree, effortlessly ascends. Have a sense of the back ribs widening as you widen your upper chest. You don't need to squeeze the spine with your back muscles. But start at the sacrum. It's not just up between the shoulder blades. It's a very, very subtle internal rotation of the head of the femurs, releasing into the socket rather than hitting the groin. And with that very subtle internal rotation, the sit bones release away from the coccyx, the sacrum widens both internally and externally. The lumbar also broadens, internally especially. And then gradually working your way up so that as the spine ascends, as you connect from the tip of the tailbone to the base of the skull, the back ribs, front ribs open up. And as you explore those dynamics, receptive to just what you need, not overdoing, not undoing. Recognize the breath taking place. Don't look down from the head. Descend the mind and diffuse it into the torso and be receptive to the breath. Let the breath come to you. You don't have to go looking for it. So in that couple of minutes, I was quiet there. How many times did the mind slip off the breath? Maybe none, maybe a lot. Either way, if you get distracted, which you inevitably do, the moment you wake up, just recognize awareness and the breath. Nothing to be gained by scolding yourself. So when you say be mindful of the breath, be receptive to the breath, what you're really training yourself to do is know what the mind is paying attention to. Is the mind attending to the breath? Is it knowing the breath in the present moment? The experience of the breath is known in the mind.
Sana Vavatu Sana Bhunaktu Sahaveyam Karavavahai Tejasvinavaditamastu Ma Vidvishavahai Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Om 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 Yogena Shatatsya Padena Vacham Malam Sharirasya Chavaichakena Yopakaratam Pravaram Muninam Patanjalim Pranjalir Anatosmi Abahu Purushakaram Shankachakrasita Harinam Sasra Shirsam Svetam Pranamami Patanjalim Hari Om.
Okay, starting tonight with Utthita Padangusthasana. So having your leg up on, for example, a ledge, a back of a chair, a table. So have the right leg up first. You might have a strap handy. You might need that. Just help to set this up to everybody to see, but that's life in the Zoom world, the Zoomiverse, right?
Zoomiverse.
Okay, right leg up, left foot straight on. You can use the edge of the couch, the back of the chair, anything, any sort of ledge. Take the arms up towards Virasana. And reach forward with the hands to the foot, loop the strap if you need to. I sometimes like to bring my hands to the ledge that my heel is on. Wait there. Gradually extending out over your back leg. Again, in forward bends, forward extensions of the spine. Keep the chest wide open. Stay wide behind the navel, just like the sitting posture. There should be no sense of compressing the diaphragm or the lungs. So there's always a little bitty back bend in the mid-back, thoracic spine. Okay, lower the right leg, take a strap, and put the belt around your left leg. So what I'm going to show here is with the right leg up, I'm going to reach my right hand around to the strap and my left hand to the foot. Okay, if you need another belt for the foot, or you can place your left hand outside your calf or your knee if you can't reach the foot. We'll just bring the strap up on the root of the left thigh. Bring the hand close to the buttock with the belt and pull down and back. And use that to twist and lift from your floating ribs, your lumbar spine. Open that right collarbone. Extend both sides of your neck. Left hand to the outer right leg or foot, pulling down and back with the right arm. Open the collarbone up. Find your Tadasana. Okay, turn forward. Now you're going to turn so the leg is to the side. And adjust the position of your leg so your right hip is in line with your left hip. You don't want to be feeling like you're sticking your right buttock out. Then again, take the belt in your left hand and pull out and down a bit. Reach the right hand to the foot or the big toe or the outer calf or the inside of the heel if you want to do that. Use that strap to open the left upper chest collarbone. Look ridiculously happy. Continue to reach that right arm farther inside the shin or the leg, those of you who can. And release. Okay, back to the change sides now. The left leg will come up, but have the belt up around the right leg. Actually, that's not going to work, is it? Just put your left leg up first. Utthita. Usually this is a standing balance pose. So find your Tadasana. Now, level off the hips. The left hip tends to hike up a bit, so make the hips compact. That means the gluteus medius muscles contract the heads of the fingers toward the socket. Urdhva Hastasana. Inhale, exhale, extend forward. You can hold the foot initially or loop a strap and take concave spine. And then as you receive the pose, gradually extend. Keep the diaphragm in the front ribs wide open. Find a little back bend up there between the shoulder blades. And come up. Wrap the strap up around your right leg. So the left heel is back up and the left arm reaches around the back. And bring it up by the buttock, sitting bone, pull back and down. Then the right hand goes to the outer calf, ankle, foot. And actually pull back a little and make it more of a twist. Draw that inner right thigh up. Open that left collarbone, make it as wide as it would be in Tadasana. Spread the collarbones like wings. Okay, then you turn to the side. The strap is still up there around your left buttock. The right hand is now going to hold the belt. You're up there by the buttock bone. Pull back and reach the left hand out to the big toe. Open the collarbones again. Now the tendency will be to push the right hip out. So draw the outer leg up and roll to your inner heel. Right hip compact to the socket as you're pulling back and down on the strap. Don't poke the hip out. You bunch of hippies. Open that collarbone chest, come on. Oh, and release, come out of the pose. All right. Take Uttanasana to the right side. Okay, like I said, don't expect me to be doing all the poses with you. All right? I could do that 30 years ago, but an old man yoga teacher now, but I can't do the poses again. Either that or I'm getting soft, I'm not sure. So, nice Trikonasana. So when you take Trikonasana, can you create that same sense of broadening the back body and the front body as you did when you were sitting? So you're now trying to push the spine into the chest. People tend to overarch in the hinge at the T12L1, where the lumbar spine meets the thoracic spine. Be careful of that. Now lengthen both sides of the waist and armpit chest. And the spinal column itself, the tailbone releases toward the perineum, and the front of the spine lengthens all the way to the base of the skull. Notice if your awareness cuts off along that extension. You bring the whole spinal column into the, I almost said flow. Uh-oh, go. Oh, okay, go ahead and flow. It's all right. Inhale and come up. Trikonasana to the left. I've had vinyasa students accuse me of, there's no flow in Iyengar Yoga. Really? I beg to differ. So, we tend to focus on opening the front body, which is appropriate, but that shouldn't come by squeezing the back ribs into the spine. Spread the back ribs, especially the lower ones, but also broaden the diaphragm in the front ribs. So your torso is more of a cylinder, and you don't want any part of that cylinder collapsed. Mr. Iyengar had a beautiful phrase. He called it circumferential extension. So the circumference of the cylinder of your torso remains as it would be in Tadasana, or that nice sitting posture, which is an interesting thing to explore. And then connect the coccyx to the base of the skull. And so you have to recycle the flow of your awareness, right? You're all into recycling. And inhale, breath, come up and step back to Tadasana. Even when you're standing, quote, still in Tadasana, you know internally that there's a tremendous flow of prana, energy, awareness, and breath arising, yeah? Duh, yeah. Okay. Ardha Chandrasana to the right side, half moon. So in the standing poses tonight, we're mainly going to work with this cylinder idea of the torso, all right? So you step into the pose, take Ardha Chandrasana. If you're having a wobbly day, feel free to use a prop behind you, that's okay. Or in front of you, that's okay. Whatever works for you. In fact, it's not, one of the reasons to use props is so we can explore these subtler dynamics. We're not just, hanging on for dear life so we don't lose our balance. Okay, lift the left hip off the right hip. Make the left leg longer. Then extend the side body, widen the back ribs, widen the front ribs, tailbone to the base of the skull. And step back down and take Ardha Chandrasana to the left side. We'll wait there. So strong Tadasana with the left leg now, drawing up into the socket. And lift the right hip and thigh as a single unit. Take the leg higher, Larry, by making it longer. Hips are compact. Then extend both sides of the torso. Broaden the back ribs and front ribs. And find the connection of the tailbone, front of the spine, to the base of the skull. If you're doing the pose with some support, feel free to turn and look up, because it is a looking up pose eventually. Lift the right hip even more, Nicole. Oops. That's why it's good to have a wall behind you. Yeah, turning the head is difficult without losing your balance. All right, everybody, step back and stand back in Tadasana. Okay, arms to Paschima Namaskar, or clasped elbows behind the back. For Parshvottanasana. All right. We're going to go to the right side. Wait there. Open the... So, this is a forward bend, but don't create the forward tilt of the pelvis yet. Keep the pelvis in Tadasana to start with. Square off the hips, turn, open the upper chest. Lift up and look up slightly. And then extend and pour yourself out over your right leg. Anchor the thighs to the socket so you have an anchor to extend from. Extend the waist and armpit chest. Find that little back bend between the shoulder blades. Feel free to take the head farther down if you can. But can you do that without compressing your diaphragm or your front lip, your lungs? Okay, take both hands to the floor. Wait there, and then twist into Parivrtta Trikonasana. Revolve triangle. Not Ardha Chandrasana yet, Mark. Trikonasana. Parivrtta Trikonasana. Wait there. So, if you feel your torso, how can you create more Tadasana in your torso? Extension of both sides, opening the front and back ribs. Use a prop if you need to. Find that little back bend between your shoulder blades. Ah, that way. Now, step out to Parivrtta Ardha Chandrasana. Revolving half moon. It's not in light on yoga. That's okay. Bend your left knee and then push through the heel to re-extend the leg. And step back into Parivrtta Trikonasana. And inhale, breath come up. All right, switching to the other side. Paschima Namaskar with the hands, or if you're clasping your forearms, elbows behind the back, switch the grip so the odd arm is on top. Turn and face your left leg and wait there. Keep the torso in uttanasana. Don't go into the forward tilt of the forward bend yet. Okay. Take the head back a little bit, if you can, if you don't have any neck issues. And then exhaling, pour yourself out over your left leg. Twisting a little from the right waist lumbar to bring the belly over the thigh, taking the torso down to your capacity. Find the concave spine, back bend. Even if the head goes way down, there's a little back bend in every pose, in every forward bend. All right, bring the hands to the floor, pause, wait for your mind and body to catch up with each other, and then take revolved triangle, prasarita trikonasana. Carly, can you bring your right hand closer to your foot so it's not so far out to the side? Especially because you're using the wall. Yeah, good. There's a fine line between imposing your will on the pose and receiving the pose. Initially, we start by imposing our will on it, but then the body's saying, hey, wait a minute. Why don't you wait and see what I can actually do today? Okay. Step out to Parvrita Ardha Chandrasana. And find Tadasana. Bend the upper leg knee and then push strongly through the heel. A lot of the stability in the pose is in that back leg extension. And the hips are compact. Now find the little back bend. Even if you fall over, who cares if you fall over? Nobody. I certainly don't. Okay. Come down. And then back to Tadasana. If you've never fallen over in this pose, you're obviously not exploring your edge enough. You're playing it safe. Oh, great. Just what we need in our lives, more judgment. You ever notice yoga teachers can be very judgmental? Why is that? Oh, you noticed that, James. Not me, though. I prefer the word discernment to judgment. You want to sharpen your discernment in the pose, but you don't need to judge yourself about how you're doing it. All right. Let's take uttanasana next. Standing forward, fold, as the kids say these days. Concave spine to start. Weight there. One time back in the midst of time when Ronald Reagan was president, Ramanan said in the middle of a class, do you ever ask yourself why you're doing this? Every day, right, Carly? Every day. Okay. Now, gradually walk your hands back towards your feet. Go into a deeper uttanasana, whatever you're coming this evening. Those of you who can take a hold of the ankles, do that. But spread the elbows wide. Now, are you gripping the heart center? Can you open the front ribs? Can you stay wide behind your navel, even as you extend deeper into the pose? Maybe yes, maybe no. Try this little experiment. Slightly contract the abdomen and try to extend the spine, the front of the spine. Then release it and release the length of the front of the spine. It's not a hard grip. It's just a little it's almost, one of my teachers called it the jellyfish. There's a slight contraction and a release, slight contraction and a release. And even when you become quite still in the pose, internally there's that little bit of am I gripping there? Can I release to lengthen the front of my spine? That also helps release your breath. Now, holding your ankles, if you can, come to concave spine. Strong concave spine. And then let the arms drop to the side and stand to Tadasana. And wait there. Ramanan did elaborate a little on that question. Do you ever ask yourself why you are doing this? Maybe you're doing it for health benefits. Maybe you're doing it because you find it fascinating and interesting. Maybe you're doing it to be liberated from suffering, or any place on that spectrum. All right, let's take wide stance, forward bend, prasarita padotanasana. There's a very, very well-known Ashtanga Yoga teacher, Richard Freeman. Some of you might have heard of him. And he said once that every reason for practicing yoga is neurotic and they're all valid. I kind of like that. Okay, start with concave spine. The very fact that you identify as an ego with the body is a neurotic stance from a yogic perspective. Maybe that's not quite a good word, because neuroses has such a Freudian stamp on it. It might not help. Okay. Maybe you're doing this because you hate your father. I don't know, what would Freud say? Or don't. So now, bring the trunk and head down. Walk the hands back. Almost immediately when I do this, I find myself contracting around my navel. So immediately release that. What's the cylinder of the torso like? Obviously, there's going to be some compression in the front body. Can you open that up, even in the forward bend? Can you connect the coccyx and the anterior spine through to the base of the skull? Keep the hands as far back as you can and come to concave spine. Walk them forward enough to come back, but play with that a little bit. Don't just move the hands forward right away. Nice. Oh. And then gradually stand up. Come to concave spine, heel and toe in a step or two if you need to. Wait there and go back to Tadasana. Take uttanasana once again. Again, slight contraction, release, contraction, release. Each release allows you to lengthen the anterior spine. Stand up. Go into Adho Mukha Svanasana, down dog. Larry, step back a couple inches. Your stance is too short. Yeah. Bend the knees, come down. So I didn't give you any instruction, right? I just said do down dog. You probably gave yourself instructions, right? Maybe it was just proprioceptive. You're doing the pose from your cellular memory, right? Your decades of practice. But every dog is different, a little day, right? Every day, every dog is different. So you were doing that, right? I hope, unless you were sitting there twiddling your thumbs, hoping me to give you the secret of downward dog pose. Now, take downward dog, and I'll fill your head with all sorts of things you can't do, all right? I'm kidding. Want to do downward dog, and I'll give you a few. Or as Iyengar said once, I can show you another flaw. He was such a supportive guy. And he said, the pose is not bad, but it is not up to my standard. Remember to step back a little, Larry. So press the ball mounts, pull the shins and inner thighs up. Extend the heels back more than trying to get them on the floor by lifting the shin from the ball mount. Don't try to push backward through the knee joint. Lift the shin and inner thigh up. Then, as the thigh anchors itself up into the socket, ascend the groin and sit bones off the leg, as if you're literally trying to lift the pelvis off the leg. energetically. Extend the waist tremendously out of the armpit chest. So the side ribs lengthen toward the pelvic rim, and you're not sagging in your lower back or pressing your chest toward your thighs. Just make the side body longer. Then the thoracic spine can go deep inside to take the head down. But those of you who are working on taking the head down, the arms are going to collapse internally, and you're going to grip your neck. So you just have to keep the external rotation and the opening of the shoulder blades off the grip of the neck. Then the last piece is to do all of those things simultaneously. We're finding the rhythm. And then for the pose. I don't know when the last time you looked at dog pose in light on yoga. It's quite profound. But don't be fooled by the swoop of the arms in the chest. Look at his spine. It's a straight line. It's amazing. So working more to the back with the back bend. The nice thing about downward dog, it's a forward bend, it's an inversion, and it's a back bend. It's 3 for 1. Okay. Headstand. Sirsasana. You looking it up, Robin? Let's see. So if you're not doing head balance, just take some form of head supported forward bend. The beautiful picture of Gita in downward dog, in Gem for Women. Yeah? Mm-hmm. It's hard to get this camera here to work right. All right, sirsasana. We're almost always constantly adjusting the arms and the crown of the head. How much weight is on the arms? How much weight is on the head? How much weight is right, left? Creating as much symmetry of grounding in the forearms as you can to lift and widen the shoulder blades off the neck. Now there is weight on the head in head balance. Quite a bit if you don't have any neck problems and you've been doing it for a long time, on a good day. But however much weight is on the head, don't see that you're not pushing the skull into the floor. You're not pushing downward. You're letting the head bear weight, but with the lifting of the shoulder blades and the arms, the neck becomes suspended between the grounding of the head and the lift of the shoulders. And you can play with how much grounding on my arms do I need? How much can I open my shoulders up and out like a tadasana so my neck is not compressed? There's a very subtle energetic release of the inner skull at the back of the skull, the occiput. It descends toward the floor, but it doesn't mean you're pushing down. That space where the neck comes out of the skull between the two occipital bones, soften that space internally and broaden those bones. Those of you who are doing the pose in the headstander, keep a nice lift in the width in the shoulders. And take care not to contract the throat. And see that the back of the inner skull is descending a little bit off the lift of the shoulders, so you're not gripping the neck internally. Your neck is worth all of this care. Then, take whatever variations you'd like to do, if any. Or just stay in the pose a little while longer. Or if you need to come down, you come down. That stands so different every day. Trust it. Good, Mary Beth. Now roll the thighs in. Use the heel pressure against the wall to move up through your lumbar and your sacrum. Yeah. Okay, finishing up in the next half a minute or so. Don't rush though, take your time. I'm enjoying your doggy tonight, Carly. All right, everybody come out of the pose. We know who's in charge. The pets are in charge, right? All right, everybody, supta virasana. Can hardly wait, I know. Iyengar actually said that to me about my headstand. Not bad, but it is not up to my standard. I'm not surprised. And then he showed me a few things, which was good. It's a little harsher when he says, I can show you another flaw. So, oh, Nicole, relax that lower back. Let it go. Feel that, oh, there you go. So, You're not really using a prop, I can see, Nicole. It takes a while for this to come. Don't force it. Don't use your abs. But gradually bring more of your back ribs onto the floor, lower down. So there's not that big arch in the lumbar thoracic. That make sense? Sometimes you can go into that and it'll come after a minute or so. That's okay. All right. So again, I know in this pose there's a tendency to grip the lower back ribs toward the spine. So open up the floating ribs. You don't have to squeeze the kidneys to open the upper chest, under the top of the shoulder blades and collarbone. So more and more of the back ribs come to rest on the floor, or at least descend toward the floor rather than being gripped away from the floor. Now those are all mechanics. Integrate the breath always. Been working lately with very subtly slowing down, lengthening the exhale. It takes a number of breaths to find the rhythm, as in any intentional or if you will, pranayama type breath. It doesn't have to be dramatically longer and slower. The inhalation comes freely without you feeling the need to pull it in. You don't have to grab it. It will come in a little more quickly because of the slowing of the exhale. What you're really doing physiologically is you're slightly slowing down the relaxation of the diaphragm. Recognizing the natural pause suspension at the end of the exhale. Maybe prolong that by a heartbeat or two, and then receive the inhalation. It takes a few breaths. In this kind of work, less is always more. It doesn't have to be dramatically longer or slower. And as you begin to recognize that pause, that suspension, it is in no sense holding the breath. There's a natural moment of suspension as the diaphragm shifts from exhale to inhale. At that moment of suspension, what's the mind like? Is the mind even present at that moment? If it is, what's it like? Let that moment of suspension be reflected in the mind. And in any kind of intentional or pranayama type breathing, however subtle, if it isn't coming, just drop it and just breath awareness. I mean, you want to play with it a little bit. Do the best you can right now. Let that moment of suspension be reflected in the mind. What's the mind like? naturally come out of supta virasana. The dude. All right. Back bend. Some of you might have noticed by now that the ending sequence of my classes is always the same, isn't it? Not always. I throw in a few things here and there. So we're going to take either viparita dandasana, back bend in the chair, or you can do cross bolsters.
William, I have a question.
Yes, please.
When in supta virasana, should I be tucking my buttocks, or should it be like the sits bone be firmly seated on whatever I'm sitting on? And just
So you're going to be, that's a good question. It's a bit of a tuck in the sense that you want, ideally you'd like how can I say this? You're not going to be on your sit bone so much of having a sense of lengthening from the pelvic rim toward the sit bones. And resting the sacrum on the prop. So there is a tuck, but it's a very subtle one. It's more of a lengthening internally of the inner hip. That makes sense? I mean, you don't want to be, if the pelvis tilts anteriorly, it's not like you're trying to get your sit bones on the floor at all. It's more of a lengthening of the inner pelvis out of the lumbar spine. That make sense? Okay. All right. There are 3 kinds of tucking. There's tucking, untucking, and friar tuck. Oh, Larry finally liked one of my jokes. All right. I've been accused of not having any new material, so I'm working on it. So extend the lumbar spine, dome the chest. Can you create tadasana in this pose? The answer is yes. The dynamics aren't changing that much. So that's a good thing to begin to understand, is that even in back bends, the back ribs should release away from the spine eventually. Initially, you will grip toward the spine to open the chest, arch the thoracic spine, all that. But eventually, remember when we were sitting at the start of the class, and I talked about the internal rotation, so the femur sets into the socket, and the sacrum and the sit bones widen. Now, the internal rotation is stronger in this pose to ground the femur, but it's really the same dynamic. And then feeding that widening of the sacrum into widening the lumbar, broadening the kidneys, especially that area where you're really over the chair. Now, you can certainly intentionally use all kinds of intentional leverage, right, left. That's very useful. But as you settle in, eventually see if you can broaden the back ribs. So the outer frame of the torso and hips has a sense of rolling up rather than squeezing toward the midline. Sort of like a U. So some of you have already added your arms, and that's fine. You can do that at any time. It's up to you. Now, those of you who have a little more range of motion, slide off and bring the crown of the head to the floor. And if possible, bring the arms into head balance position. Or you can plant your palms on the floor with the hands turned out to bring the elbows in, lying over the wrists and not splayed out. Don't worry if the elbows don't touch. Make a fist and press down from the outer hand and wrist, and then sharpen the lift of your shoulder blades and armpit and chest ribs. Again, the internal rotation of the femur widens the sacrum so the outer hips have a sense of ascending. Bring the arms up, inhale, exhale, get a little momentum and dome up out of the pose. Feel free to do your right-left twist. Everybody does it anyway. So I think my job just got a lot easier. In every pose now, all I have to say is, find Tadasana. It's sort of like, where's Waldo, right? Where's Tadasana? So I heard that Waldo went to India and found himself. I heard somebody made a game called Where's the Dude? Like, you know, like those Where's Waldo things. There's all these, sometimes it's actually kind of hard to find Waldo. And then you're looking for the dude. I love that. I'd like to get that. Okay, but enough of that. But, you know, the dude was a yogi, right?
The
You
dude
want to,
abides.
his teaching was to calmly abide, right? Abide. The dude abides. Or El Duderino, if you're not into brevity. Man. Okay, shoulder stand. Don't get me started. I'll do the whole movement. I'm sorry I planted that your word. Now you're all going to be doing the big Lebowski and shoulder stand. Every time I watch that movie, somehow I want to go bowling. Don't know what it is.